If you ever chase success while your brain ran a full time anxiety startup in the background, this one's for you. Welcome to Healthy Mind, Healthy Life. We're hanging out with Justin Spencer, rock drummer turned relentless do gooder, whose career spans Vegas residencies, an Emmy nominated TV series, and now a debut thriller literally written in an airport terminal. The through line: mental health, grit, and choosing kindness at scale. We're getting tactical about how to win big without losing yourself. No toxic hustle, no performative wellness. Real tools, real talk. Justin, it's so nice to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for the wonderful intro. I think you oversold me, but I'll do my best to live up to all those credentials.
Yes, I don't think so, though. Thank you for coming on the show. So, Justin, you've been open about lifelong anxiety, yet you still shipped world class work. What's the moment you stopped treating anxiety like a defect and started treating it like data?
Well, that's a tough question, I think, for anybody who deals with, uh, life altering mental illness like I have. And really, truly, once you understand what you're up against and that you actually can't cure it, which is where the name for my book, Terminal Anxiety, comes from, um, you start to accept that it's really not something that is a detriment to who you are, but actually just is who you are. And I think many years ago, and it's always a work in progress, but many years ago, I started to just understand that I am who I am and that I have to roll with the punches and try to use my complicated mind as a resource instead of a hindrance.
Yes. And I'm also curious if there's a 2 minute pre show protocol any listener can run before a high stakes moment, what would be that?
Uh, I guess for me, I have found when I was young, when I was 19 years old, I had my very first panic attack, and I really wasn't sure what it was. And there are levels to people who deal with um, anxiety, in this case specifically, that um, there's anxiety and there's anxiety attacks and there's panic attacks. And panic attacks are the most severe of all the um, levels of anxiety that you can experience. And I received my first panic attack. I was at the 1996 Olympics in Georgia on vacation, or I just graduated high school and taken a road trip with my girlfriend, and I'd experienced my first panic attack, unaware at that time what it was. Um, and then that feeling kept happening again and again and again. And for me, that was my first exposure to really what would become the rest of my life of trying to navigate these complex emotions and feelings I experienced.
Hmm. True. And I feel like what you talk about is just says essentially to seek anxiety or anything that problems humans to take them as fix me, as more as brief me rather than fix me, right?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I mean, it's been we're now 30 years into me experiencing these emotions and these feelings. And no matter how much success I have, no matter how much you try to run away from these emotions and these feelings, the is that if you're an anxious person or you have an anxious mind or a complicated mind, these things are never going to go away. You just try to find ways to weather the storm, and I'd be glad to talk about things I've worked on in my life, but it's just who I am.
True. To see it as a part of us rather than a flaw of us is the right mindset, I feel like. And that kind of reframing becomes even more critical when the stage, quite literal or metaphorical, gets massive. And talking about you've done various stuff from America's Got Talent to a Vegas residency to chaos and kindness. Huge arenas, huge pressure. Where's the line between healthy intensity and self harm dressed up as ambition?
Yeah, so it's interesting because um I feel most comfortable when I'm on the stage. I
Mm.
feel the most comfortable when I'm on TV, uh, or when I am the center of attention. That is very much my arena. Now, it's important to understand where that comes from. Um, I started playing drums at a young age as a performer, and I always enjoyed putting on a show. It's a passion of mine. And I'm very introverted off stage and very extroverted on stage, which is a very common trait with a lot of performers. And another common trait you have with people like me is severe ADHD. And ADHD manifests in a lot of different ways, and it makes you super creative and have this ability to multitask and multifunction. But also, um, it also is a detriment because it's a very complicated brain, right? So that also feeds into the anxiety with people. Now, you just mentioned that I've been on America's Got Talent, and I've had a Las Vegas residency for 11 years, and I've done 8,000 shows as a performer, and I've had a great deal of success. I have a TV show and all of these things and run multiple businesses. And that is a byproduct of having a complex brain. Now, in that, you are a prisoner to your own thoughts each and every day. So, y- if I want to, I find myself most anxious and most out of body when I'm doing nothing, and I feel most at home when I'm doing something. And if that maybe resonates with some people who are listening to this that have those same kind of things that I always say the most anxious moments of my day are first thing in the morning and last thing at night. And it's when everything's the quietest. So if I'm not doing something, then I'm really kind of suffering.
True, true. And I feel like that makes so much sense to me. And what's powerful about your story, Justin, is that you didn't just preach balance, you operationalized it. Chaos and kindness isn't some fluffy slogans, it's a full blown system. Let's talk about that too. Chaos and kindness isn't just vibes, it's logistics, budgets, timelines, and humans. How do you treat kindness like a product with systems, not just a feeling?
That's interesting. So, um, to give your listeners a backstory, so growing up, I didn't have a lot of money. I grew up in a trailer park, and at an early age, I found power in being kind to people. In sixth grade was my first exposure to doing an act of kindness that felt fulfilling to me. I was raising money at our school lunches in middle school for kids that didn't have toys for Christmas. And I was aware at an early age what that giving feeling felt like. That would later on become basically the backbone to who I am as a person. That when you go without a lot and don't have a lot, um, kindness becomes a drug. And I want to find ways to promote the idea that most people can find a great deal of purpose and fulfillment in doing things for other people. I always say that giving and doing something nice for somebody is my true north. When I get lost in life,
Hmm.
I find that giving is my true north. So I developed this TV show 8 years ago called Chaos and Kindness. And the idea was that the chaos side of things was being in a rock band and doing crazy things and crazy stunts and all these things. And the kindness side was to offset that one-dimensional feeling of just go, go, go with this sense of don't forget where you're going to. And that is these acts of kindness. And that's this ideology that giving and being there for other people and just giving doesn't have to be monetary, to be clear. Giving can just be
Yes.
anything, giving time, giving energy, giving showing the world that you're an empathetic person and accepting people for who they are. And taking that mindset was really a way to offset the chaos side, the business side of things. So, um, yeah, I mean, I've created this amazing brand called Chaos and Kindness. It manifested from a TV show into a retail brand of like-minded people, and it's we have found a way to make kindness cool. And I think being kind to people is a really cool way to live life.
Yes, yes, true. And the way you've built that book, literally from an airport terminal, proves structure and creativity can absolutely coexist. So let's talk about that too. You lived at ATL's airport until the book was done, while constrained. How did the terminal become a therapeutic container instead of a cortisol trap?
Good question. So I I love doing crazy stunts. Okay. I've done a lot of crazy things in my life, and I love to force myself to do things by putting it out in the world. Hey, I'm going to do this and holding myself accountable through my fans on social media. So I came up with this idea that I would write a book, which is a big challenge for me. I was never good in school. I'd never written a book before. I barely passed high school as it was. So just writing a book would be a heavy lift. It'd be a big challenge for me. So I knew that in order for that to happen, I would have to lock myself in something. And I came up with the idea of anxiety being a terminal disease, that you eventually just die from anxiety. You might live your whole life, but you just eventually just eats you alive. And I'm like, man, terminal. Oh, an airport. I'll lock myself in an airport and I will go to the busiest airport on earth, which is Atlanta's um, airport. And um, I will live there until the book is complete. And I will use my experiences of the things that I see around me, the people I meet in the airport, and I will interject those into this novel. So I moved to the airport in Atlanta and I did not leave for almost 3 weeks, sleeping on the floor, evading Homeland Security and having to survive in this airport that has 250,000 people coming in and out every day. And I stayed there for 3 weeks writing this book, Terminal Anxiety. And it was one of the most rewarding and unique experiences I've ever had. Uh, the amount of things I did while I was in the airport, the things I saw, and writing this amazing novel, which is a fictional book, but littered with non-fictional stories and anecdotes. Um, and that's what this book is about. It's got so many underlying um, tones and antidotes about mental illness with this crazy thriller of a book it's an absolute page turner. And it's full of like, wow moments. It's kind of written like a movie be written. And
Mm.
it was just such a unique experience for me as a non-author to write something like that in such a complex and chaotic setting.
Yes, yes. And I feel like the most interesting thing about the book is after the part of you living in the airport is you completing the book in just 3 weeks. So I just feel that as very interesting and kind of very performative. And you've performed loud for years. What have you learned about the quiet sleep, recovery, nervous system downshifts that actually keeps the lights on?
Yeah, so recovery and things of those nature, and when you run high, like I run, my brain is a high functioning brain, right? ADHD, anxiety. I'm like a processor in a computer. The more you use it, the faster the battery wears out, or the harder you push on your accelerator on your car, the faster the gas wears out. So recovery to me is critical, right? I'm one of those guys that requires sleep, purpose, and fitness. So those 3 things kind of the remedy for me, that get me through each day. I have to have a purpose, a reason to wake up every day, right? So what am I working towards? What am I doing? Am I bringing value to other people's lives? Am I bringing value to my life? What is life as a whole? Why am I here? And can I answer that question through a purposeful meaning? Then I have to rest because I'm burning myself down so hard, and I have to I have to combat my complex brain with, um,
Mm.
with fitness, right? I use the endorphins that with fitness as a way for me um, to offset those chemicals in my brain, because really at the end of the day, my mental illness, like everybody else's, is a chemical imbalance in my brain, right? So that's why I'm trying to offset this with the serotonin.
True, true. Like three important takeaways are sleep, proper rest, that is fitness, and purpose. So I would like to pressure on these three topics for our listeners to. Well, Justin, it was a wonderful conversation. But before we wrap up this episode, for our listeners who would love to connect with you, please tell them the ways to do so.
Yeah, so there's all kinds of ways. I'm such a unique I'm in a unique situation where I got this band that you might have seen on America's Got Talent called Recycled Percussion. You can find us on Facebook or any social media platforms. Really, look up Recycled Percussion. But we primarily do most of our communicate with our fans through Facebook, just because it's the easiest way to expand on topics in long form. Then we have a brand called Chaos and Kindness, and that is a retail brand. You go to chaosandkindness.com, and you can get my book Terminal Anxiety there as well if you want to. And you can see all the amazing things that we're doing. That's also on all our social media platforms. But we have over 1 million followers on our platforms, and we're very engaged with our fans, and we're always doing something crazy and inspiring. And we'd love to have your audience come over and see what we're doing.
Yes, yes.
And we'll certainly do the same for your audience.
Yes, true. Amazing. And all the details as to how to connect with Justin will be in show notes. I request all our listeners to go and check that too. Well, Justin, as I said, it was a wonderful conversation with you. I had real fun. Thank you for coming on the show.
Yes, thank you for having me, and I look forward to hearing this when it comes out. You take care of yourself, okay?
Yes,
Okay, bye.
just a minute. Yeah, just a minute. I have to wrap the outro. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes. Here's the takeaway. You can be high performance and high compassion at the same time. Audit your inputs, operationalize your kindness, use constraints like scaffolding, not shackles. Then put your nervous system on the calendar because maintenance is leadership. Massive thanks to Justin Spencer for turning chaos into kindness and anxiety into art. If this episode helped, send it to a friend who's printing on fumes. Then pick one action, run the pre-show protocol, schedule a recovery block, or deploy that micro-kindness SOP. Tiny reps, compounding peace. You're not behind, you're building. Let's build something humane. Thank you for tuning in. This has been your host, Sharu, and you've been listening to Healthy Mind, Healthy Life.